Hello everyone. Today I'm going to discuss about the elasticity, category of elasticity. Polar case in elasticity, two extreme case of elasticity. Number one, when computer elasticity equals zero. And number two, when computed elasticity is infinite. Even though perfectly elastic and prefer elasticity curves corresponding to horizontal and vertical curves, remember that in green elastic, in general, elasticity is not the same as the slope. Perfect elasticity demand curve refers to the extreme case in which the quality demand increase by an infinite amount in response to any decrease in price at all. Similarly, a quantity demand drop to zero from any increase in the price. A perfectly elastic demand curve is horizontal, as shown in figure 2 to the right. Elastic demand is an all or nothing things. Perfectly inelastic demand is an extreme case. Necessities with no close substitute are likely to have highly inelastic demand curve. This is the case with life-saving presentation during like insulin. A specific quantity of the insulin is prescribed to the patients regardless of a price increase or decrease. The same quantity is needed to stay alive. Perfectly inelastic demand means that the quantity demand remain the same when the price increase or decrease. Consumers are completely unresponsiveness in the change in price. Price elasticity of supply. Price elasticity of supply is the percentage change in the quantity of a good or service supplied delivery by the percentage change in the price. Measures how much quantity supply changes in response to a change in the price. Look at how producer responds to a change in the price instead of how consumer responds. Calculate the price elasticity of supply from A to B. Assume that an apartment rent is $650 per month and that the price is 10,000 units are offered for rent. As shown in figure 2 left, when the price increased $700 per month, 13,000 units are offered for rent. By what percentage does apartment supply increase? What is the price sensitive? So this is some of the formula for the price and elasticity. Use percentage elasticity of the demand formula. How we can calculate it: percentage change in quantity divided by percentage change in price. Percentage change in quantity equals to q2 minus q1 divided by q2 plus q1 divided by 2 multiplied by 100. Percentage change in price equals to p2 minus p1 divided by p2 plus p1 divided by 2 multiplied by 100. Use the values provided in the each of the square. Percentage change in quantity: 13,000 divided by 10,000 divided by 13,000 plus 10,000 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 100 equals to 26.1. For step, when those values can be used as a determinant of the price elasticity of the demand, and that time we can divide both of the things and we can find 3.53. Income elasticity, cross price elasticity, and other type of elasticity. Quality supply depends on the cost of production, change in the weathers, new technology, and the government policy. Elasticity can be measured for any determinant of the supply and demand, not just the price. Elasticity: how a percentage change in one variable causes a percentage change in another variable. Elasticity does not just apply to the responsiveness of supply and demand to change in the price of a product. Quantity demanded depends on income, taste, and preference, population, expectation about future price, and the prices of related goods. Income elasticity of the demand. From most product, most of the time, the income elasticity of a demand is positive. The percentage change in quantity demand divided by the percentage change in incomes. Income elasticity. Income elasticity of the demand. A rise in income will cause of an increase in the quantity demanded. These goods are referred to as normal goods. For a few goods, an increase in income means that all might purchase less of the goods. Cross price elasticity of the demand refer to the idea that the price of the good is affecting the quantity demanded of affecting goods. Component goods have negative cross price elasticity. If good A is a component for the good B, like coffee and sugar, then A price for B will mean a lower quantity of a consumer. Substitute goods have positive cross price elasticity of the demand. If good A is substitute for a good B, like coffee and tea, then a higher price for B will mean a greater quantity of A consumed. Calculating cross price elasticity of the demand. The cross price elasticity of the demand is the percentage change in the quantity of the good A that is demand as a result of a percentage change in the price of good B. So percentage change in QD for good A divided by percentage change in price of good B. Wage elasticity of labor supply. If percentage change in hour work divided by the percentage change in wages, elasticity of the labor supply equals to percentage change in quantity labor supply and percentage change in wise. Interest elasticity of the saving. The percentage change in the quantity of the saving divided by the percentage change in interest. The formula as follows: interest elasticity of savings equals to percentage change in quantity of financial savings divided by percentage change in interest rate. Expanding the concept of elasticity. Elasticity concept does not need to relate to a typical supply or demand curve at all. Whenever contest elasticity is involved, the idea always refers to percentage change in one variable. The idea is almost always a price or a money variable and how it causes a percentage change in another variable, typically a quantity variable or some kind. Formula for calculating elasticity. Income elasticity of the demand, a percentage change in QD divided by percentage change in income. Cross price elasticity of demand equals to percentage change in QD divided by percentage change in price. Wage elasticity of the labor supply. Percentage change in quantity of the labor supply divided by percentage change in wage. Wage elasticity of labor demand. Percentage change in labor demand divided by percentage change in LEV. Elasticity and total revenue. Studying elasticity is useful for a number of reasons, pricing being the most important. The key concept of thing about the the price elasticity is the demand. So TR equals to Q multiplied by QD. Elasticity. Elasticity is a percentage change in QD is greater than percentage change in P. Unity. Percentage change in QDT is equals to percentage change in P. Inelastic. Percentage change in QD is a less than percentage change in P. Elasticity and cross function. What happens if the farm produce cost change? What is the most of on consumer? If the cost of the key input rise, can farm passes along those higher cost to the consumer in the form of higher price? Elasticity, cost, and consumer. How would a technology breakthrough in aspiring production impact the market if it inelastics? How would a technology breakthrough is aspiring production impact the market if it were elastic? Applying elasticity in the real life. What happened to the housing rental market? Here is a big boom in apartment production in your community. What happened if the demand is elastic? What happened if the demand is inelastic? There are many specific questions we can ask for this price elasticity and demand elasticity. And if we can understand this price elasticity and demand elasticity in an effective way, that time we can take necessary initiative. We can go for the necessary things and we can take the necessary initiative to solve this problem. So if we focus on the few things, number one, elasticity, cost, and customers. Long run versus short run impact demand. Elasticity are often lower in the short run after in the long run. On the demand side of the market, it can sometimes be difficult to change QD in the short run but easier in the long run. The elasticity of the demand for energy is somewhat inelastic in the short run but much more elastic in the long run. So long run versus short run impact supply. For supply side of a market, producer of a goods and services typically find it easier to expand productions in the long run for several years rather than in the short run of a fewer months. In the short run, it can be costly or the difficult to find a new factory, hire many new workers, open new stores, but over a few years, all of these are possible. In most markets for goods and services, prices bounce up and down more than quantitative in the short run. but quantity is often more than prices in the long run. The underlying reason for this pattern is that supply and demand are often inelastic in the short run. So the shift in elastic, either demand or supply, can cause a relative greater change in price. Since supply and demand are more elastic in the long run movement in price are more muted, while quantity adjusted more elasticity in the long run. Most important thing is tax incidence, elasticity and tax incidence. The analysis of how a tax burden is divided between consumer and producer in called tax incentives. Incidence depends on the price elasticity of supply and demand. Typically, the incidence or burden falls down of the consumer and producer of the tax goods. To predict which goods will bear most of the burden, examine the elasticity of demand and supply. Tax incentives. When the demand is inelastic, consumers are very responsive in the price changes, and the quantity demanded and reduce only modestly when the tax in introduced. When a tax is added in a market with an inelastic supply, and seller have no alternative than to accept lower price to their business, taxes do not greatly affected the equilibrium quantity. So if we do some sort of review of these points, so we can find many things. Number one, what is elastic and given a few examples. Two, why is the demand for some goods either elastic or inelastic? How do you mathematically difference between elastic, inelastic, and unitary elastic of demand? What is our percentage change or growth rate? How do you calculate price elasticity using the midpoint methods? What is the difference between a midpoint elasticity approach and the point elasticity approach in the calculating elasticity? What is the difference between slope and elasticity? Explain and compare graph for the following type of elastic inelasticity, unitary, infinity, and zero. So if we do a quick review about these sessions, we can find some question. How do you calculate the price elasticity of supply? How do you calculate the income elasticity of demand? What is price elasticity of the demand and how do you calculate it? What is elasticity in labor and financial capital market? How do difference in elasticity affect total revenue? How do you evaluate how elasticity can cause shift in demand and supply? How can you predict how elasticity affect equilibrium in the long run and the short run? How do you price elasticity of the demand and supply determine the incentive of a tax and buyer? There are many specific questions we have to give the answers, and if we can figure out these questions in an effective way, that times we can find some of the things. So just what is elasticity? Elasticity an economic concept that measure a responsiveness of one variables to change in another variables. So there are different type of variables, price elasticity of demand, price elasticity of the supply, income elasticity of demand, and cross price elasticity of demand. So if we can understand this kind of things in an effective way, that time we can take different kind of measure. We can take different kind of strategy. We can take different kind of things which is valuable. We can measure the point. We can understand the point. We can identify the point. We can go with different kind of strategy and strategic analysis. We can figure out these things in an effective way. We can understand these things in an effective way, and most important things, if we can understand these things in an effective way, that time we can go for the positive impact, and this kind of positive impact can change the economical aspect. So I request in the COVID-19 situations, all of the people, you just focus on your work. You just focus on your strategy. You just focus on your different kind of strategy which is helpful for the economy. And if we can understand these things in an effective way, that time we can go and take the necessary measurement, and this measurement will help us to grow our economy in an effective way. So thank you everyone, those who joining today's sessions. If you have any kind of question regarding price elasticity and elasticity of the demand and everything, we will give you answer. But definitely when there is a economy and economical aspect, I request everyone, please be focused on economy and take necessary initiative. And if you can take necessary initiative, that time we can take the necessary measures and everything. Thank you everyone for joining today's sessions.